What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here. Today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Annihilape in competitive Pokemon. So if you're excited, then make sure to leave a like on the video and help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Also, don't forget to comment which Pokemon you want to see next or your thoughts on Annihilape down in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to the channel to help us reach our sub goal of 2,000 subs by the end of the year. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Starting off with its stats, Annihilape has ridiculous bulk with 110 HP, 80 defense, and 90 special defense. Its attack stats aren't too bad either, with 115 attack and 50 special attack, so it's pretty clearly a physical attacker. And then of course its speed stat is about average, I'd say. It's about 90 on the speed stat, which is not bad in the current metagame. There's obviously a lot of faster threats, but for what it provides, a 90 gets the job done really well. Moving on to its typing, it's got a really unique typing shared by only one other Pokemon, and that is Marshadow. It is a ghost and fighting type Pokemon, so a really unique typing. Did you guys know that its stabs are actually only resisted by one type, one Pokemon in the game, or one evolution line in the game, and that's going to be the Hisuian Zoroark line, because that is a normal and ghost type, so it's immune to both of its stab options. Now, the type that it has offensively is good. We know that it's good. However, defensively, it's not the best. It has weaknesses to Ghost, Flying, Psychic, and Fairy, 3 of those coming from the fighting type, and it has resistances to poison, to Rock, and to Bug 4 times. Not bad at all, but it also has weaknesses, or immunities rather, to Normal and Fighting. Overall, a decent type chart, but offensively is definitely where it shines, and it's definitely not a defensive monster. As for its abilities, it has 3 of them. It has Vital Spirit, Inner Focus, and Defiant. And I'll give you a quick rundown on these. Vital Spirits, you're not going to run. Why? Because it's only really useful if you're going to be falling asleep. So if you're in a metagame that has a lot of Spore going around, yeah, sure, maybe it could work. Inner Focus, this is basically a doubles ability. And the reason why is because it stops you from getting hit with Fake Out. But oh wait, you're a ghost type. You're immune to Fake Out, so it doesn't really matter much at all. And yeah, you're immune to Intimidate, but you have Defiant as your last ability. And Defiant, every time your stat is dropped by 1, by 2, doesn't matter, you get a boost by 2 in your attack stat. It doesn't matter if it's a special attack drop, an attack drop, or whatever, you'll get that boost. So obviously, you're gonna be running Defiant pretty much every single situation you're gonna be in. As for its move pool, it's got a really interesting and diverse move pool, as long as they're physical attacks, of course. It's got its signature move in Rage Fist, which is a ghost type attack. It's physical. It is 50 base power. However, every single time you get dealt damage, like your hits, you increase the power of this move by 50 points. So not by 50%, by 50 points. So it goes from 50 to 100 base power. That's doubling it. Then you go for another one, it increases it by half. So it's just a pretty significant increase. The downside is, most of the time, this thing is not going to take multiple hits because we're in a very glass cannon hyper offensive meta right now, at least at the very start of a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It does have access to moves like U-Turn as well for momentum, which is really useful. Drain Punch and Close Combat are the main focuses you're going to have for its fighting stab. Those are really good options either for big damage or for recovery. Earthquake is solid to deal with certain like electric types or certain steel types. Maybe they are something like Goldengo, which is immune to the fighting type attacks. But then again, you just go for your Rage Fist or your Shadow Punches or your Phantom Forces. It has access to Ice Punch for certain dragons, might be really good, or certain grass types as well. Gunk Shot could be good for fairies. Stealth Rock is actually something that it gets surprisingly. I don't know why it does, but it does, I guess. It gets Seed Bomb, which is really solid for Pokemon like Quagsire and Gastrodon, which are going to have their own place in the metagame with the fact that they get now hazards. And Helping Hand is like basically the best double move that it gets. I don't really see this thing running Helping Hand in doubles, but it is an option nonetheless if you're in a situation where you need a Helping Hand user and you want another offensive Pokemon. As for some teammates, we're going to look at a lot of dark types here, a lot of them. So, good dark types, that's the main thing. Some Pokemon we can include in this are going to be Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao is the ice and dark Pokemon. It's got really fast stats, with 130 in the attack or something like that, and then 135 physical attack, around that range. It is a really strong breaker on the physical side, and it can really break for Annihilape or vice versa. They do the same thing for each other. There's Chi-Yu, which is the fish Pokemon. It's fire and dark. Really good breaker on the special side, and it takes it down to the high special attack stat really well. The main thing with this Pokemon as well, with this Pokemon and with Chien-Pao, is they're bulky enough to the point where they can take an incoming ghost type attack without feeling too bad about it from something else. If it's obviously an Annihilape, you're really going to be careful because you don't want to take the U-turn, you don't want to take a fighting move on the switch in as well. But again, the main thing with these is they can take those hits from ghost type Pokemon. Then I have a really weird one here in Garganacl. This is a pure rock type Pokemon that was released. It has an ability called Purifying Salt, which is really solid. The ability basically makes so it can't be statused and actually takes less damage from ghost type attacks. So it pairs really well because this Pokemon is going to force in a lot of Thunder Waves or Will-O-Wisps or Toxics, depending on the Pokemon that's coming in. I know Toxic got nerfed, but this Pokemon can't be status. And if it's going to be coming in, basically if this Pokemon is going to be receiving some Ghost type attacks, it's like it's resisted even though it's a pure Rock type. So it's a big advantage as well. Basically plays the role of a Dark type in a situation that's not really a Dark type in. So that's some options there. I also have Kingambit. Kingambit is the evolution of Bisharp, which is not the best combination, but it's a solid combination enough that is more of a lower tier option, because eventually we think that Pokemon like Chien-Pao are going to get banned. Chiu's probably not going to get banned. Pokemon like Roaring Moon might get banned. So we have options that are backups. Kingambit is one of them. It's a great breaker. It really relies heavily on Sucker Punch though, and Swords Dance, and its a Supreme Overlord ability, but they break each other's Pokemon, each other's checks really effectively, and that's one of the reasons why we have it on the list. I mentioned Roaring Moon before. Roaring Moon is definitely one of the better Pokemon you can pair with it. It's a great Dragon Dance sweeper. It gets access to U-Turn. It's such an amazing Pokemon overall, and I definitely feel like it's going to get banned pretty quickly, to be honest. Next up, we're going to look at Great Tusk. This Pokemon is the Paradox form for Donphan. That was the previous form, so I believe in Scarlet is where you got this one. This one here is solid overall because it is a fighting and ground type. It really forces in flying types, and you can really wear them down with the powerful attacks that you have access to and your powerful offensive stats. So it's something that felt would work well together. And then finally, we have Corviknight. Corviknight is good overall, and one of the reasons why I like Corviknight here is because it can take the flying, the fairy, the psych type attacks that are coming your way, and it's not weak to ghost. It can also pivot around really well, just like Annihilape can. It also has mirror armor, which is useful in case your opponent has multiple intimidate Pokemon. You can kind of protect against that a lot more effectively. But more importantly than that, the better ability this generation in my eyes is actually pressure, because of the nerf to all these stall moves and the recovery moves. So instead of having 16 PP on recover or roost or slack off, you now have only 8. That's a big deal if you have a Corviknight on the field when your opponent's going for that. So it could be very, very valuable in certain spots. Moving on to a new segment for the How to Use show, we're going to be talking about the best Terra types for each of these Pokemon. Now, the reason why we're covering this is because I feel like it's going to get banned myself. However, I'm not sure if it will. At the same time, in Ubers, it'll likely be available, so I want to keep this around just to be safe if we had a situation where Terra was still in the format and you guys wanted those opinions. So in terms of the best Terra types here, I think the best one is actually going to be Normal. Reason why is because Terra Normal allows you to be immune to ghost type attacks that are going to come your way, while not being weak to basically anything else other than fighting, which who's going to go for a fighting type attack on your ghost type Pokemon? No one. So it's pretty solid there. It does remove your staff powers, which is unfortunate, but hey, it is what it is. As for another type, we're looking at Steel types. Steel is all because it helps you resist Fairy. Now, this is better than Poison, but Poison is still a possibility. I like Steel more because it allows you to resist a good bit more things, and you're not still weak to Psychic like you would be with Poison. But Poison does make sense if you have a couple of good Dark types on your team, which a lot of the meta is a lot of Dark types. At the same time, you have no grounded Poison type. It could be very solid to get rid of some T-Spikes. And then finally, Terra Blast Ghost or Terra Ghost would be really solid, and the reason being is you're going to boost up your Rage Fist, your Phantom Forces, your Shadow Punches even more than already they are, which is a good thing. Then we're going to move on to some items that I like on this Pokemon. I only have 3 of them here. I have the Life Orb, I think it's the best item on this Pokemon. I have a Choice Scarf, which is a close second on it. The reason for these 2 items is because you get either the boost in power or you increase your average speed, and you can really start pivoting around a lot more. And the last one I have is the Assault Vest. This is really so you can start taking hits and boosting up your Rage Fist a lot more. You have really good bulk, 110 HP, 90 special defense, plus the Assault Vest. Makes a lot of sense. It could work really well. Moving on to some movesets, I have 3 of them for you over here, starting off with a Choice Scarf set. We're running Terra type Normal on this one here, defined as our ability with a Jolly Nature to max out our speed stat, and then you're going to see a very common trend here: U-Turn, Close Combat, Rage Fist, and Earthquake. These are, in my opinion, the best moves to have on the Annihilape. Earthquake is a flex spot. You can put on Ice Punch there if you'd like. You can put on Gunk Shot if you really feel like it. Honestly, there's a ton of good options to put there, but those first 3 moves are going to be very common. Then I have another set that is revolving around Terra Ghost. So we're running the Terra Blast here with the Life Orb. This is going to be running U-Turn, Close Combat, Terra Blast Ghost, and then Poison Jab for the fairy types that are going to be roaming around. I felt like this was just more beneficial in general. Close Combat obviously is going to be your main form of attacking here, but as a Pokemon, it is really solid and can break really well. And then the last set I'm going to be covering today is going to be the Assault Vest set that I'm showing for you over here. This AV set is relying on a Steel type Terra type, and the reason for that is because we want to have it resist kind of the fairy types that are going to be coming your way. So having U-Turn and Drain Punch for recovery, having Rage Fist because you're going to be a lot more specially bulky because of the Assault Vest. You already have good bulk in general, 110 HP, 90 in special defense. It's good enough to take a hit or 2, then you'll be able to take 2 or 3, and that'll boost up your Rage Fist by, again, 50 points more. It can do a lot of work. And then finally, Terra Blast for Terra Blast Steel would be solid to deal with some random fairy types that may be coming your way. Moving on to some predictions, I believe that for Smogon, Annihilape is going to be UU. The reason why I think it's going to be UU is because I don't think the meta is going to stay the same right now. Obviously, the tiers haven't fully settled yet, but the Pokemon right now is being severely outclassed by a lot of different Pokemon. Something like Iron Valiant, Qianpao, Roaring Moon, even Palaf in hero form are all putting in a lot of work where this thing is just kind of not doing as much. So I do think that while it's a good Pokemon, those 4 Pokemon I mentioned there, and some others, of course, are going to end up getting banned potentially, and that's going to allow a lot more for this Pokemon to climb up the ladder. But because those Pokemon are going to be getting banned, I believe that it's going to be less likely that we're going to actually see a lot of Dark types in the format. I think Dark types are going to be a lot less prominent with these Pokemon being gone. So having that being the case, losing out on the best type that this Pokemon's good against, being really good against, of course, normal types and Dark types, then you're losing out on a bit of utility that this Pokemon would have. I think it'll be OU for a while because obviously things will need to get banned first, but the fact that it pressures all these Dark types means it'll have increased play, and of course, down the line, that play is going to be reduced when those Dark types end up getting banned. I think eventually it'll settle into UU. At the most, it'll be a UU-BL because it is a really good Pokemon still. Moving on to VGC, Defiant is nice for Intimidate. That's really the main thing, but it doesn't really have any double support other than Helping Hand, and that's really not that great because a lot of Pokemon do an offensive Breaker's job better than Annihilape does. Like I said, Defiant is nice, but it's not going to be the main thing that you're relying on. You don't rely heavily on Defog. It's mostly Intimidate as the main thing, or maybe something like Snarl or whatever. So Defiant is good, but not going to be as useful as in previous generations, I find. And as I said before, a Breaker or Cleaner role is not going to be as good on this Pokemon as it would be on other Pokemon. And then moving on to Draft League, this is my specialty, so if you guys enjoy that kind of stuff, then make sure to subscribe, of course. On a 17 to 18 point scale, that's the highest, most expensive Pokemon that you can find. I believe this will be around 13 to 14 points. Reason being is that its type is unresisted. The only Pokemon actually resisted are going to be the Hisuian Zoroark and Hisuian Zorua, which are not currently in the games right now. And you can kind of mold it to do basically whatever you want in Draft League, which is a good thing. One of the best things about this Pokemon is it has that flexibility. Most of the time you're running U-turn plus your stab options, and the last move is basically anything you need for any given matchup, which is great. It's also a baby Marshadow. The issue is with it, I think there's going to be a lot of really good Pokemon this generation that people are going to want to try out, and Annihilape is going to get a lot of disrespect, especially early on, and then the hype is going to kind of die down, and it's going to stick around that range until someone really comes along and just breaks this Pokemon. And even then, it's going to be a Pokemon that really has to be used in the right hands, in my opinion. And that's all I have for you guys today for Annihilape. If you guys enjoyed the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video. We're aiming for 75 likes on our content today. Of course, also comment down below your thoughts on the Pokemon. Let me know which Pokemon you want to see covered next. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're on the way to 2,000 subscribers, and we cannot get there without your help. I want to give a big thank you to our YouTube channel members. Our level 1s are going to be Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texman. Our level 2 is Tone, and our level 3 is Sully. Thank you all for the support by going the extra mile and supporting the channel financially. If you guys want to do the same thing, you can click the join button at the bottom of the screen. Guys, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.